So I met with Danny Moyer, who is one of four teachers in the Whitehall area school district. He teaches at the high school. And I went into his classroom for about 3 hours and interviewed him. Got to take a look at the gallery space they have. They have their own enclosed gallery space. And then I also was able to talk to some students who are working in the room while I was there talking to Danny. He's having real conversations with students, making connections. They have the studio, and he wants you to come in. He wants to hear your struggle, the people's struggle. There was like a really huge feeling of like authenticity with the students who were in there working while I was there. So one of the cool things they do is something called Deck the Walls, and if you have taken his class, he puts your face blown up in some crazy emotion on the wall. And it's really cool that nobody vandalizes them, which is the thing I thought was so interesting. Of course, I'm thinking to myself, how do boys, high school boys draw dicks on everything? How do these portraits go unscathed? And, he explained to me that they're so authentic in the way they're creating art in this space that people don't want to touch them. They don't want to vandalize them. They want to see their portrait up on the wall. So I thought that was really interesting. So, one of the most important things from my visit with Danny, I think, would be talking about the gallery space that he has. Very incredible. For 10 to 15 years, he had worked and pushed getting a gallery space in their school, and he did this by um, being active in his community, and he would facilitate events at the Banana Factory. He was out there being an artist outside of being a teacher, and then he got credit for himself in being an artist, so it was easier for him to be like, hey, let's get these kids this beautiful little gallery that they can display work. And he's really big on visiting artists, so they had visiting artists come in when I was there, and it was just full. An artist who was showing in the gallery while I was there. Her name is Erica Steerley, and she does collage work. She had this size dimension hanging on the wall, and there was hundreds of them, and they were just these incredible little pieces of art, these little collages. And something we talked about in there was the ability to have interdisciplinary connections so easily with art. So one of the things he would do is they would come down from an English class, like from English to the gallery, and you had to make a narrative. So he would pick, or have students pick, uh, one of three of these collages, like pull three of them down, and tell a story, and then have to narrate the story of these three things in a row. And then after they figured it out and they narrated, he would switch it and put one in the front and this one in the back, and then the entire story would change. So it would be this entire lesson on a show, creating a show and narrative storytelling, and that was by analyzing other people's artwork which is one of the core foundations of the national standards, and also creating a story and discussing literature and how stories are told. So that just branched off into this awesome art English connection. There was another artist who was there, and I didn't write his name down, unfortunately, but he did these giant panels of these like scribble paintings, and there's a picture in the video of them. And you know, it was an opportunity to talk to students about what is art. This person has just scribbled all over this canvas, and something that he wanted to get across to students when they would discuss this piece of art particularly is that product is important and it's a reflective experience, but if the process isn't fulfilling, then it's not worth it anyway. So it doesn't matter what your product is. If you were not fulfilled by the making of it, then why do you have the product to begin with? So it's this conversation about what it means to be an artist and how you have to make your process worth your product, which I thought was really cool. Some final thoughts that Danny gave me while I was there. He said it's advice for the video here. So every art teacher should be a maker. It's really easy to come in every day, go on Pinterest and find something interesting for your students to do, but that's not what being a teacher is about. If you're making things while your students are making things, it doesn't matter where you work, if it's a school, a museum, an art therapy setting, a hospital, it doesn't matter. If you're not being a maker, how could you expect them to be a maker? So that's something he advised. Also, don't get lost behind your ego. You're not better than anybody ever. Point blank, that's what he said. So he said, you're not better than me, I'm not better than you. So you can't get lost in your ego. He said, tell it like it is, always. Don't ever beat around the bush, but you're an art critic to your students, he says. So if they lose, they lose. And if they win, they win. So losing is good because it makes winning so much sweeter. So, to follow through with assignments and assessment, do what you said you were going to do. And then, you know, there is some sensitivity required in being an art teacher, but you have to follow through. So that is what I learned from Danny Moyer.